All right. Okay. So when you asked me to do a little talk, I've been doing a few talks lately, or in the last couple of years. It was mostly about avalanche safety, and I wanted to. It's springtime, and I wanted to jazz it up, and I thought about what could I be talking about, and since you are raising money for local search and rescue, I thought about maybe educate people a little bit about what we do in search and rescue. And so that's going to be the first part of my little talk. And so maybe I will inspire some people to join the local search and rescue, or at least donate. And the second part would be talking a little bit about risk management, because I found a lot of people do get into trouble, and it was just like a little they could have just managed a little bit more their risk and the hazard, and they would have been just fine. So um, I was going to talk a little bit more about my background, but you did a really good job. So yes, I've been a guide for over 20 years. I'm a member of the Canadian Avalanche Association, the Association of Canadian Mountain Guides, the Outdoor Council of Canada, and also I'm a canyon guide as a sea kayaking instructor and so many other things. I hit middle life crisis pretty bad, and I wanted to do something different with my life. And I decided to just being a guide was not fulfilling myself and my need, and I wanted to give more to the community. And this is how I start giving away more avalanche safety courses and taking teenagers in the wilderness. And I found a great fulfillment to pass on my knowledge and being a good mentor. And this is where I brought the terms the mentor nearing. And this is where I found West Coast educational adventures. And also in the summer, I'm the only company here in British Columbia who offer canyoning. And so I also start in the summer that we're just going to be about to open the canyoning season. So West Coast canyoning adventures. So what is search and rescue? Well, there's the Search and Rescue Association that basically englobe 80 SAR groups. So if we're looking just here in the sea to sky, we have Pemberton, Whistler, Squamish, Lions Bay, the one I'm part of, North Shore. We have Coquitlam, Central Fraser. We got Surrey. We got Mission, Chilliwack, and that goes all the way to Merritt and Revelstoke and name it. So 80 teams around the province, about 1,600 incident a year, and that is 2,500 volunteers. So we do not get paid for what we're doing. So we're doing it on our own time, our own money, and our own sweat. And so what do we do? All right. So if I take my own little team here on the Lions Bay, we're about 30 members, active members. We're all enthusiast outdoor people. And we really focus on mountain travel and rescue skills. So our zone is pretty much from St. Mark's all the way to Porter Cove. So if you if you have run the Owl Sound Crest Trail, this is pretty much our turf. So if you sprain an ankle and need an assistance, that's where you most likely are going to see me. Um, in order to become a search and rescue, you got to go through 75 hours ground and search and rescue GSAR course. So until you pass that basic certification, you're an MIT, a member in training. That usually take about a year. We meet every Monday night, and we train our new members, as well as training ourselves. Once you pass your GSAR, you're kind of starting to opening up to specialize yourself into a slightly more interesting courses. So you can go to become a team leader for the ground search. You can do some mountain rescue course. You can do some technical rope rescue. You can go more on the management side and learning how to become a search and rescue manager. You can go into the snow and avalanche, so organize avalanche response. So you can become a team member or a leader. Tracking, swift water, and this is the new things happening in British Columbia, but also canyoning. So we're kind of starting to specialize ourselves. So again, our zone goes from pretty much Cypress Provincial Park all the way to Porter Cove. So we see you folks all summer running on the Alstown Crest Trail, and it's a beautiful, if you haven't done it, it's a great trail. It has some good challenge. I haven't run it myself. I hike it a lot, but I'm there so often that I don't have any interest to go run it, but I can see why you guys want to do it. Most of the time we would access to you guys by helicopter unless we can't fly, and we would go by foot. We would use long line systems, which is a 150-foot cable right underneath the helicopter to access more technical terrain. This is like a photo showing you a little bit what it looks like. And we would basically land beside you if we can have that. Sometime we don't, so we would hike, or we would just use the proper helicopter and land on the nearby passes or helipad we previously established, and then access to you. So this is like what we do. We meet a lot. We do a bunch of training. This is, for example, a photo of us practicing rope rescue. On this one, I was teaching them some rappelling, how to upsell down a cliff, and different style to use your descenders. Here we're working on building anchors and using different force ratio and very interesting geeky rope stuff. Rappelling down a cliff. That was on a mountain rescue course. So every year we take some technical courses, more specialized, and that one was a mountain rescue. So practicing crevasse rescue on the snowbanks, self-arrest, installation of anchors, and whatnot. This one is our team practicing canyoning. That was a course I designed with a follow guides from Jasper, Joe Storm, and this is our team in Cypress Falls practicing moving guys down waterfalls. Again, Alstown Crest Trail could be also very beautiful in the winter if you can do it on snowshoes or across backcountry skis. Again, another place, another opportunity for us to go and get you. Hopefully not. But yeah, it's pretty amazing that right in our backyards, we have amazing terrain. That was on a mutual call for an avalanches, and unfortunately, that was the Mount RV incident. And this is where I wanted to do this talk, because this was a kind of an epiphany for me to be like, we need to do more education of the public about hazard. On this instance, the Mount RV case, on April 8, 2017, a group of 6 hikers, it was a Facebook group, hiker group, and they decided to climb Mount RV. And according to the friends and family of these people, they were like avid hikers, and they knew their stuff. And but the thing is, they were hikers. They were not mountaineers or let's say seasoned backcountry snowshoer or backcountry skiers. And one thing they forget, or they could not realize, that there was a massive wind event in the week previous the incident, where we had massive cornices. So just to understand, a cornices is just a snow feature that's been basically created by wind. And with those big cornices, we will have like an overhang balcony of snow that you don't really know that you're standing into the void. And what happened is the leader of the group had a sore knee of some sort and stopped. The 5 other people went up and passed him and decided to wait for him at the summit. And they all stand on the cornice, and the cornice gave up, and they made us fall to their death. They basically fell 600 meters. So it's kind of hard for most people to say, how high is 600 meters? But if you're thinking, if you're standing on Lionsgate Bridge, I think it's like about 60 meters, more or less. So think about like 10 times the Lionsgate Bridge. So unfortunately, they did not survive. And that was just because the lack of knowledge. They just didn't know what was a cornice, didn't know the cornice was there, and didn't know about this hazard. Not knowing it, they could not manage it. So this is about understanding how you can manage the risk. So this is what I want to talk about tonight. The first thing is I really want you guys to take a little 3 seconds, look at yourself, and unfortunately I cannot see you, but raise your hand if you are a risk taker. What kind of risk taker are you? Are you that type person who push your limit? Are you the type person who will push others' limit also to kind of bring them along? Or are you the more conservative type person and the more like, hey, whoa, we gotta cool down here. Like we're putting ourselves into a little bit too much hot stuff right now. So it's kind of like really, you got to start with yourself, and then you got to ask yourself, is my friends are on the same page, right? And another thing is always taking risk in the urban context versus the outdoor context. You know, the biggest difference is in the urban context, most of the risk has been kind of taken care for you. Like we designed cars that have extra safety. We told you cannot be more than 12 people in this elevator. You should not drive as fast. You should wear your helmet when you bike because there's a law for it. All that stuff. You should wear your mask when you go and stay 2 meters apart when you go to the grocery store now. But when you move to the outdoor context, now you need to manage your own risk. There's nobody's gonna hold your hands unless you you pay for a guy like me to come with you. That could be that. But the point is you need to make your own decision, and you decide for yourself, right? Is it worth it or not? And this is the question: is the risk versus reward? Is it worth it? You know, what am I getting out of it? You know, am I like, I'm a big mountain biker, and we were talking, me and my partner, and she said, if you had a machine to go back in time, what would you do, and what did you tell to yourself? And I'd be like, I would go back 6 years ago, and I would tell myself, don't jump, because I had to do like 4 knee surgery because of that stupid accident, right? And was it really worth it for a little jump on a mountain bike? Totally not. So it's always kind of, on hindsight, you don't see it, but when you start thinking about it, it's like, yeah, that wasn't the smartest thing. But we're getting older, and I guess getting a bit more wiser. So this is where it goes. We need to start learning how to manage our risk. So what is risk management, right? It's the idea is you have to identify what is the risk, and being able to identify the hazard. In the case of that Mount Harvey, they could not even identify the risk. They could not even see there was a cornice hazard. So then they could not assess it. They could not prioritize it, and they could not equip themselves to be more resilient to it. So the first question is, can we reduce all the risk to zero? The answer is probably not. And who can determine the appropriate level of risk? Obviously, will be the public opinion, right? A lot of people think motorcycle is uber dangerous, right? That's kind of a public thing. It could be the industry standards, like it could be like, well, okay, we think playing hockey is quite of a big risk for concussion. So the industry, we need to, at an industrial level, we need to build better helmets. It could be our organization as a group of runners. We can kind of start saying, yeah, this hike is a little bit more dangerous than the other one. And obviously, at the end of the day, it's you. So some important concept here to understand in risk management is what is an hazard, what's vulnerability, what's a defense, and what is resilience, right? So hazard is anything that can create a negative consequences. So, so for an example, a bear is an hazard. Consequences, getting mauled by a bear. What is my vulnerability, right? So like how bad is it gonna be if I get mauled by that bear? What is my defense? Well, you know, anything that can reduce the impact of encountering that bear. Well, bear spray maybe, and in terms of resilience, is like how with my defense, at what kind of extent I'm gonna be feeling better at the end of this encounter. So we can go again. What is my hazard? Possibly it's gonna rain for 3 days, like we're talking about the little trip that Jeff was talking about. Well, how vulnerable I am? Well, you know, my BV bag, not super good. It might be wet for 3 days, and that could be really bad, actually. What's my defense? Well, maybe I'm going to switch and get a Gore-Tex BV, and I'm going to bring a full-on Gore-Tex, or I'm just going to postpone my trip. And at the end, how resilient I'm going to be if I do all these things. Like, so how to be building a resilient group. So let's say you organize a running little expedition on the Owl Sound Crest Trail. To be resilient and having a good resilient group, you need 3 things. The first thing, again, identifying the hazard. What are my hazards? Okay, I'm going to be running. So we have weather, thunderstorm, wildlife, maybe people in my group. They might not be strong as they are. Maybe we're talking slippery rocks and kind of medical first aid thing, and COVID right now. So and then we gotta assess it. Yes, okay. So what is the chance versus the risk that happens? So or the consequences, probability versus consequences. So the chance that I see a bear right now, they're actually quite high. Consequence, quite high. Okay, so this is like number one. I gotta deal with that. What are the chances that I pick up COVID from my friend's Jeff running? Well, he's healthy, seems all right. So the chances are quite low. Consequences could actually be quite high. So then you're starting to evaluate all your hazard, and you're starting to kind of looking at what you can use as defense, and all those defense can actually reduce your hazard. So again, being able to identify your defense in terms of equipment, how you're going to manage your group by the time you go, looking at the weather, having a good situational awareness of what's going on the trail in terms of wildlife, for example, carrying a bear spray, really dialing down your map and making sure you don't get lost, etc. And I would say the biggest risk and most of the trip is communication, bad communication, and people. So having said that, the first thing is I took this kind of like little drawing, and I thought it was really interesting because everything is interconnected. And you're in the center. You are your own biggest risk. And so basically, it's observe, look at what's going on, and there's that kind of, if there's something change, stop and reassess how the change is affecting my day. Is now we're running, and suddenly we're moving from subalpine vegetation to alpine vegetation. Okay, how's that is affecting my day? You don't have to stop literally, you just have to have that mental stop and say, how's that affecting me? Okay, we're changing wildlife habitat, we're going to be more exposed with weather, etc. Discuss your group goals. Talk about experience with your teammate, who's got different abilities, and build consensus. This is like a really good thing. People who have good communication in a group tends to make better decision and actually being more safe. And again, plan ahead. A good plan and well executed always is way safer than just try to wing it, and you're just putting yourself into more trouble. On that, I didn't want to talk too long because I know it'd be a long night for all of you guys. But on that, I want to say thank you again. Thing is, be smart, play safe, and remember, search and rescue is free. Call earlier than later. It's way easier for us to come in the middle of the day when we got daylight and flying than if you're calling us after dinner when it's starting to get dark. Now we have to hike up and hike you down. So we love when you guys call earlier. And if you have to call us off and we go back to our mountain bike rides or barbecue, we don't care. We're happy that you guys are safe. So thank you again. And again, it's safe. Don't forget, call us 911. Any questions now?
Thank you so much, FX.
No problem.
I have a question for you. I don't know if there's any other questions coming in yet. I think probably people are just getting them together. But you talked about the importance of communication with groups. And I'm thinking back to an experience I had, I guess it was 2 winters ago, but we had a ski group, and I think that the communication failed a little bit. So I'm wondering if you have any tips, like what kind of questions can you ask your peers, and what are sort of the things that you'd want to be asking and checking in on a regular basis to make sure you don't have any, I guess, group issues?
Well, the first thing is human factor. Human factor is the base, I'd say 100% of the accident, because as soon as I said, the communication falls, everything goes out the window. And it's just being kind of like hyper aware of what is the group dynamic, right? Looking at, like, is there like a competition? Is there people are trying to beat like some time on their trail runs? Like, with looking at Strava is huge right now, and it might, or objective. Are they like commitment, goal oriented? Those tends to put people into trouble. Also, listen to the person who doesn't talk. Sometimes you have like very vocal people and we tend to kind of follow them, but sometimes the introverted person also have something interesting to say, but unless you ask them, what do you think? They might not share this great information. I notice also the aspect of showing off or social proof, right? How we see weird things happening, people taking headstands on the side of the chief cliff just for Instagram and things like that, and start asking yourself, is it really worth it to have a couple more likes on your Instagram? And also, it's all. And I really like, Jeff, your little talk earlier. I'm a big bike backer, which is same equipment, and it's a good balance. It's always finding the balance of having enough, but not too much or not enough, and finding the right piece of equipment, because we try to say people bring all your essentials, but people tends to be like, yeah, it's just the North Shore. It's like, it's that familiarities. People don't bring anything. They just, it's just the North Shore, and we're just gonna go run for like 3 hours. But we pick up people all the time that they're just unequipped to spend 24 hours on their own. So you break your ankle on Mount St. Mark's and we can't fly because there's bad weather, you're going to be there for a long evening or a long night. So yeah, kind of like, again, it's all about being smart and kind of plan ahead and listen to your teammate and to yourself.
In fact, I'm curious about what's happening now. This year, it strikes me, must be totally different in a number of ways when it comes to search and rescue, because the way we've been well, the last couple months, I should say, the way we've been getting outside has changed. Have you seen an increase in calls, a decrease? Are they different kinds of calls? You know, what mistakes are people making that maybe they wouldn't make normally? What are you seeing out there? What are the patterns? I'm mostly just curious for myself.
Well, the first few months we had a decrease in calls, and what I found is we have less, sorry for the term, but Mickey Mouse calls where people are just having cramps or something like that. Tends to be the first call, first week, the shutdown of COVID, we have an avalanche, and yeah, we had to look for somebody without going into much details. And then it's been like one or two calls of people really in trouble, and the last one we had was like last Sunday, and they were like two world-class hardcore mountaineer, and one of the guys just kind of, I think familiarity again, like he just kind of lost footings on a snow slope, but it was 45 degrees and he went 400-meter tumble and stopped himself before a 100-meter cliff, but he was in really, really bad shape. And we had to call the army on this one to evacuate him. We used the 442, which is the Sartec from Comox, and they use a huge cormorant helicopter, and they are the only one who can fly actually at night. So they came around 12:30, 1 o'clock in the middle of the night, and they managed to winch him out. And we basically hike out to Hat Pass and BV'd there for the rest of the night, and we got picked up by the helicopter the day after and went to work. But yeah, it's like pretty bad case, but less.
So lower volume, but the cases are equally bad, if not worse, that you do have.
Yeah, but in terms of operation wise, it's kind of a tough one for us because we need to be full on dressed up with PPE and full on Gore-Tex mask, gloves, and it's challenging also in between us because, for example, if you're working on a cliff edge with 3 other guys, you cannot stay 2 meters apart. So it's and the communication is not the best with masks and things. So it makes it a bit more challenging, but totally feasible. Yeah.
Have you seen the numbers? Has anything happened over the last couple of weeks now that as the parks are opening up, have you seen a change in that trend, or have the numbers continued to stay fairly low so far this year?
Not on my case, because our team is the Alsound Crest Trail, so it's still full of snow. So again, that's why we're having more serious stuff, because people venture, they're the full-on mountaineer. But I can see by the end of June, it's going to be more trail runner and things like that, and this is where we're going to see more ankles and things like that. But I think, and you know what, I really encourage people to get out. Like our mental health has been like very affected, and yeah, it's great. We should go out, and we're there to help out, and I really believe in what we do. And you know, it's just as long as people are smart and they have equipment and they can actually stay put until we showed up, then we're happy, you know, and not doing unnecessary risk. And yeah, and if it happens, well, we're there.
Yeah, it almost seems like the fact that people haven't been getting out and posting trip reports and photos, now there's this sort of vacuum of information, right? So people might start going out and not realizing that, like you said, it's been a high snow year and we have a late snow pack.
Yeah, we don't have the Avalanche Canada.
And there's no avalanche, exactly, yeah. So there's just no intel out there, right?
Yeah, to me, I'm apprehending the slingshot effect, right? Like everybody's been holding. It's almost like the race line until somebody like fired a gunshot to go, and now things are starting to open and people are really getting like, they really want to go and do things, right? So and then they might start getting to see friends that they haven't seen for a while, and that could create some sort of interesting momentum.
Yeah,
as long as we're aware of that. And
we're calling that the surge at my work. I'm noticing that too in mental health. We're kind of having this real peak in terms of people starting to access services now. So I think probably people have been kind of holding back and ready to get outside and get doing the things they want to be doing and getting supports as well. We have a new question from Phil. And the question is, FX, are you seeing a trend with higher percentage calls coming through from GPS devices like Spot or InReach?
That's a very good question. Yeah, like let's say in the last 20 years, search and rescue really became more of a rescue and maybe search. We used to search people all the time because they'll be missing, and then we find them and then we rescue them. Now, most of the time, we know where they are. We just have to rescue them. So that is a huge shift in the paradigm of the search and rescue world. So that is the first thing. The second thing is great. Like somebody say, look, I broke my legs or my friend's in bad shape. Here's our coordinates. Thank you. We're coming. That's great. Where this is not so great is, first of all, people lose the ability to look at a map. They are pretty quick at calling search and rescue. So they, so they tend to be like, I don't have to bring all that safety equipment because search and rescue will come and pick me up and it's free. But and the other thing is some map software. I remember looking at Gaia GPS, and they show a hiking trail going down the north ramp of Mount Harvey, which is a rock climbing route. And that shows as a hiking trails. And we had like this dad coming with his daughter and decide he want to exit the Alsan Crest trails because it's been too hard for them. And he took that trail until he's really in trouble. And then we're like full on rope rescue, getting those two out of the rock face because they're stuck, right? So it's like those guys who follow their GPS and drive into a lake because the GPS told them to go there, right? So we got to be smart. We got to make sure we still know how to use a map. Taking some map and compass classes, contact me. I'll be happy to direct you who's teaching it. I also teach it. I don't have any dates yet, but it'll be some this summer. So it's kind of like, don't remember the old ways. It's great to have the technology, but the technology is there for you. You're not there for the technology. And so, just don't make the smartphone outsmart you. Let's put it this way, right?
Yeah, that's that thing with Gaia that you mentioned. I know they did address that apparently anyway. They've created a new category where there's routes versus trails. But the point is there'll be another app that will get it wrong at first. Yeah. So you can't rely on the technology. And I know Phil here had a follow-up question around, are people relying too much on devices like these and neglecting the basic safety things? And yeah, it sounds like what you're saying is it's kind of a blessing and a curse. Like it's a double-edged sword there where it helps some people and it gets other people in trouble that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise, maybe.
By definition, we're lazy, right? I'm the same. I always hope like technology will help me to make things faster. Like I'm trying to learn accounting and I'm like, oh, QuickBook is the next new thing. And suddenly it just creates more problem than anything else. And that's what I see in the avalanche world where people wants to get a drone that's gonna find your friends and like it's all, and finding an app telling me exactly which slope is safe and which slope is unsafe. And unfortunately, there is like they're looking for ways to people to manage your own risk. And at one point, it's all about mountain sense, experience, and being able to assess your day and say, look, what did I do good? What I could have done better? And did we do a good decision? And it's all about common sense. But being able to reflect on what you're doing and not making this and learning from your mistakes and not making hopefully that mistakes the second time. Right?
Yeah, when we do the Survive Outside presentations, we always talk about how search and rescue is not a plan B. Like that's your worst case scenario. You should have a plan B, C, D, and plan Z is search and rescue. So. But it almost strikes me that people might be taking risks that they wouldn't otherwise take because they think, well, worst case, I've got that in reach. And that's not the way you should be looking at it. Like the in reach isn't it shouldn't really factor into your risk assessment in a sense. That's just what gets you out of trouble if all the plans fail.
I'll tell you a little story, Jeff, about in reach. I was teaching an avalanche course and I was on Dinky Peak, which is about a kilometer and a half from Mount Seymour parking lot, like straight line. And the inReach in my pack, I don't know how, turned on and sent the SOS signal. It took 3 hours and a half before somebody showed up. And somebody, Ski Patrol, showed up in the middle of my course. And they're like, oh, have you seen anyone with like a spot beacon? I'm like, no, but I have one. And I pull out my inReach, and obviously it was flashing. And I was like, yeah, and I pull out my radio and call North Shore Rescue and say, hey guys, that was me. But it just gave me a good lessons that 3 hours for 1.5 kilometers, and it's not, it's really your last case scenario. You need to be able, again, the 10 essentials. I was thinking for like mountain bikers and trail runners, you can make like a pretty small little kit, first aid, communication, signalization, little, like your little package could be very, very small. And I don't even see why, like it's not everybody's carrying it, right? And you were talking about flashlight. Now you can get like a pretty powerful flashlight that is like 20 grams. So yeah.
That's just it. I mean, there's no reason to even do a trail run during the day without a headlamp. And I remember reading, I think it's for BC, that something like 50% of calls are simply due to lack of light, right? It's people getting caught out in the dark, I think. So
yeah, totally. Yeah. Like a whistle costs nothing, weight nothing, and it's so useful. Think about what, like in terms of first aid, what do you need? You need something that absorbs really well, something that you can wrap around your leg to create, because honestly, if you crash and you break a bone, you need some, you're gonna stay put. What's gonna kill you is deadly bleeding. So, you know, a tourniquet, something to absorb, something to do a bandage, and something to keep you warm.
Yeah.
A safety blanket. So there's ways to make something super compact and making it very efficient, and that should be your go-to fanny pack.
I know search and rescue doesn't necessarily track stats for trail runners versus hikers, because one reason probably being that it's, you know, not everybody identifies as one versus the other, and a trail runner might be out for a hike one day and need help. But it strikes me that with trail runners, the problem is that we go out with less of a buffer. So we're saying, oh, it's going to be an hour and a half, and you know what, I'm sweating, so I won't bring a jacket. Yeah. And then it's the second that things change that now it turns into an 8-hour crawl back to the car because you broke your ankle, and then you get cold, hyperthermic, and it goes downhill from there. So Kyle had a question here. In your own experience, and maybe this is more anecdotally, what are some of the most common problems that you've seen in the backcountry for trail runners specifically? Is it more that lower leg injury kind of thing that just really slows you down?
First aid, obviously, ankle, maybe knee, but I'd say weather. And I'm not a trail runner, so just make sure I'm a mountaineer, but I'm a big mountain biker, and I can really relate mountain bikers and trail runner because we cover a lot of distance fast, and mountain biker, we crash even harder. But I got caught by nightfalls many times, but also by weather. Like I had like in the desert, like snowstorm and hailstorms and flash floods when I was down in the United States. I used to guide down there, and things happen really quick, especially, and this is the thing, as soon as you cross the tree line, you're in the alpine, you're way more exposed to elements like wind, rain, and then you're all sweaty, so you need something that, if you get hurt, that's the first thing that's going to set hypothermia, and hypothermia will kill you in matters of hours if you can't. So that's one thing to address. If I hurt myself, can I have a mean to stay warm? And you say, oh, I'll start a fire with one lighter. Well, if you're in the alpine, there's not a lot of wood, there's not, it's a skills. There's not a lot of people who can start a fire without paper, just with a lighter. So that's yeah, I'd say.
Especially on the West Coast. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I've been caught in some storms where, you know, in the Southern Chilcoot, and there were 3 of us, and we ended up huddled under like a bush that was, you know, like a subalpine bush with space blankets because we were freezing, and then we had to run off the ridge. But we got really cold really fast. And had one of us been injured, we would have been hyperthermic for sure.
With a little bit of wind there, and with an injury, and it's like, then you can't regulate. And if you like do those massive runs like you're doing, Jeff, like in one point you're so tired and so depleted in energy that you can't even thermal regulate anymore. So you can't keep yourself warm. Another thing is wildlife. You know, we do have bears and cougars and Bigfoot, if you believe it in it. But you're running. So by definition, if a cougar see you running, you're gonna trick their predatory instinct. So that is something to be aware, like hyper aware of what's happening on the trail. Did I see any scats? And having a bear spray and bear banger is something that I would at certain time of the year, and also maybe taking a course on how to manage a different type of bear attack. Is that a predatory behavior, or more like kind of a sow who wants to back off from her away from their cubs? So little kind of things in mountain sense and educating yourself. So educating yourself for avalanche in the winter, mountain weather, a bit of wilderness first aid, and wildlife is going to get you a long way.
And running in groups, I guess, is almost always a good thing, like especially when it comes to wildlife. Generally, the bigger the group, the better.
And safety, right? So if you blow your ankle, you're not going to get anywhere. So at least if there's like 3 or 4 of you guys, and you don't have cell phone service, at least, or they can take care of you.
Yeah, you can share gear and keep the person warm. Somebody can go for help. The other, I guess, in my own experience too, the thing that can really get us as runners this time of year is punching through like snow bridges, and we have really inconsistent snow, and that's where you can really hurt yourself, like really bust your knee.
Stay away from rocks. If you see like rocks poking through snow, usually the snow melts way faster around those rocks, and you got those hollow spot, and that's where you do yourself.
Yeah, when we did the Tahoe Rim Trail last year about this time around June, actually a friend of ours had just broken his leg. Basically, he was really, because he had punched through like a snow bridge. So yeah, that's something to be careful of for the next few weeks for sure.
All right. Any other questions?
Any other questions here? And if people do want to get involved, I mean, there's different groups. I know there's different levels of commitment depending on if it's Lions Bay. I mean, what's the best place to start? Is it going to BC Search and Rescue Association's website, bcsar.com? If people want to learn more about getting involved.
I think you should go first with your local, because if you're in the North Shore, I'd say go North Shore or Lions Bay. If you're more in the Fraser Valley, there's few teams there. So I would kind of reach out, go on the website, and look at when is the next batch of they take new MITs. We just took a cohort of about 20 new members. And what we look for, we don't look for mountain guides and like very knowledgeable people. We look for people who has the passion, that they're motivated, and people that we think they're going to stick around. Because if we spend so much time training you and after a year or two you're gone, it's kind of demotivating for us. So we'll put a lot of time in training you, and then you're going to thrive through the team, and it's great. And it's a fun, and we do take women in our team, and we want more. I think and diversity also. I think we're a great team, but a little bit too white, male, middle age. So we need more women. We need more people of color, and we like in any like the outdoor industry in general. So
exactly. I think that's
and we need people at any trade. If you're good at marketing and this is what you can do, well, great, because guess what? We need to market our team also. So.
Speaking of marketing, so FX, you do courses yourself. So you do avalanche. How can people learn about? You do canyoneering, you do avalanche training. It sounds like you have some navigation courses coming up.
So with the COVID, everything got shut down, but I'm slowly opening the canyoning. So it's going to be canyoning course this summer. Probably going to put a few dates for outdoor leadership through the Outdoor Council of Canada, so like hiking leaders, and probably 1 or 2 map and compass. Where they can get hold of me, I'm selling all my trip at the moment on Yervana, so WERVANA.com. So this is kind of a great platform for local guys, because they're kind of it's like a Airbnb for local guides. So this is great. And I'm working right now on my website. So, but I'm a guide. I'm not a web designer. So it takes more time. And yes, canyoning. So, and also people can reach me directly at fxtheguide@gmail.com. Very easy. And please, yeah, fire away. Send me an email. I'll be happy to answer you. And you can follow me also on Instagram at fxtheguide.